What's happening, guys? My name's Nicholas Renat, and in this video we're going to be handling real-time gesture recognition. So you'll be able to use your computer's webcam to detect different gestures in real time and see them displayed to the screen. Let's take a deeper look as to what we're going to be going through. So first up, what is gesture recognition or gesture estimation? Well, it's a technique that allows us to take a hand pose model, so one that, for example, detects different joints in our hand, and work out what that particular gesture is at a point in time. So say, for example, we make our hand into a thumbs up, it's able to detect that this particular gesture is a thumbs up. Likewise, if we change our hand to a peace sign or to our victory sign, it's able to work out that this is actually a victory gesture. Now, this particular form of gesture recognition can be used, for example, in gameplay, can also be used for sign language detection, and a whole bunch of other great use cases. Let's take a look at what we're going to be covering today. So the first thing that we're going to be covering in this video is installing the Fingerpose library. Now, Fingerpose is an awesome library because it allows you to take a hand pose model from Tensorflow.JS and convert that into an actual gesture. So work out what the different gestures that your particular hand is conveying at a point in time. Now, from our Fingerpose model, we're actually going to be able to detect gestures from hand poses in real time. And we're also going to show how you can use that to control your application. So in this case, we're going to be making different hand gestures, and you'll see an emoji change which represents that particular gesture in the app on the page in real time. So let's take a look as to how we're actually going to be doing this. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be using our computer's webcam to grab a real-time video stream. With that video stream, we're going to be passing that to Tensorflow.JS to determine our different hand poses. And then from that, we're going to take those hand poses and pass them to Fingerpose to detect our different gestures in real time. Ready to do it? Let's get to it. Alrighty, so in this video, we're going to be focused on gesture recognition, but specifically, we're going to be extracting gestures from our hands. Now, in order to do that, we're going to be leveraging the hand pose detection code that we wrote in a previous video. So if you want the link to that, or if you want to walk through that video end to end, the link will be somewhere up there. And if it's not showing up there, just check the description below. It'll all be there. So what we're going to do is we're going to leverage this code to build a real-time hand pose detector. So that's already done and dusted. Then what we can do is we can take that particular application and extend it in order to perform gesture recognition. So this will take our regular hand pose model, which detects the different joints in our hands, and take it one step further so we can detect different gestures. So for example, thumbs up and peace or victory. So what we're going to do is start off by copying this GitHub repo. And again, the link to this will be in the description below, as will all the code for this video. So you can pick it up and get going hella fast. So we're going to grab this code, we'll grab this link up here, and we're just going to open up a new terminal. Now in this case, my terminal is already pointing to this gesture recognition folder here. So in this case, if you needed to open up a terminal, just navigate to that. So to download this, we're just going to type in git clone and then the name of our repo. So what we've typed in is git clone and then the name of our repo. So specifically this link here, and we're just going to hit enter to download that. And that's now done. Now what we're going to do is just rename this because it's no longer going to be hand pose, it's going to be gesture recognition. And we're going to open up that folder and start making a couple of tweaks. So let's open this up. Alrighty, so I've opened it up in my favorite code editor, but feel free to use whichever code editor you prefer. So we're mainly going to be using JavaScript for this, and specifically React. So again, if you want a little bit of a more in-depth walkthrough as to how to set all this up, by all means, check the link in the description below for the full hand pose model. We're going to take this and run with it. Now, if we open up our source folder, the main components that we're going to be working with are all in here. Now, this is all from our hand pose model, so these steps are specifically for our hand pose model. For our gesture recognition model, we've got a couple of key new steps, so let's paste those in. Let's make this a little bit bigger. All right, so we've got 5 key steps for our gesture recognition model. Now, the first thing that we need to do is go on ahead and install our core dependencies for our hand pose model, so we can do that using the npm install command. Then what we're going to do is install Fingerpose. So this is the library that's going to allow us to perform gesture recognition. So again, the link to this will be in the description below. but you can see that by using our hand pose model, we're able to detect different gestures. Now in this case, we're going to be doing something similar to this, but we're going to be writing it from scratch. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need to handle our state. So this is going to allow us to work with our emojis, and specifically, we're going to import that in. We're then going to import our different photos or our emojis, build our detect function or update this detect function here. So this is the function that actually makes our detections for our hand pose. Then we're going to handle our control flow. So in this case, we're going to be displaying emojis, but if you wanted to do something else with your application, so say you're building a game and you wanted to detect different directions, you could actually point in that direction and detect those gestures. So that's a little bit of custom gesture recognition, but we'll take a look at that a little bit later on. Now what we're going to do is get started. So we're going to first up install our dependencies and install Fingerpose. So let's go on ahead and do that. First thing I'm going to do is open up a terminal and to install our baseline dependencies. So everything that we've got inside of package.json, we're just going to type in npm install. And that's going to go on ahead and install our dependencies. It should take a couple of minutes. Just let it run and we'll be back in a sec. Alrighty, so those are our baseline dependencies installed. Now the next dependency that we need to install is Fingerpose. So in order to do that, we just need to, let's just clear this so we can see it a little bit better. So to do that, we just need to type in npm install Fingerpose and then go on ahead and run that. So that's now done and dusted. Now, if we wanted to, we could actually spin this app up and actually test out our baseline hand pose model. So if we type in npm start, this is going to open up a new browser, and within that, we're going to have our pre-built hand pose model that's able to detect the different joints in our finger. We're then going to extend this and handle our gesture recognition. So let's let that start up and run, and then we'll start making some updates. Okay, so we can see that our camera's up and running, and if we give it a couple of seconds, what should happen is our hand pose model will load, and you can see we've still got our Thanos hand pose model. Again, if you want to see how we built this from scratch, by all means check out the other video. Now what we're going to do, however, is we're going to take this model and we're going to allow it to detect different gestures. So let's stop our application and then start making those updates. Okay, so we can now mark step 1 as done. So we've gone and installed our baseline dependencies and we've gone and installed Fingerpose. The next thing that we need to do is import useState. So I wrote add useState, but really we're going to be adding the useState hook. And this is going to allow us to handle our application state later on. So this is pretty easy. All we need to do is go inside these curly braces here and import useState as well. Perfect, that's step 1 now done. All right, now the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually import some of our other dependencies. So specifically, we're going to import the images that later on we're going to use for our control flow. So in this case, our thumbs up emoji and our peace emoji or our victory emoji. And we also need to import Fingerpose. So this is that line down here. So let's go on ahead and import those couple of things. Oh, I should also point out that we're going to actually need to grab those images. Again, this is all going to be in the GitHub repo and I'll include links to it. So first up, what we're going to do is we're going to paste our 2 images into our source folder and then we can import them. So if we go into our source folder, I'm going to grab those images and I'm going to paste them into here. So you can see we've got 2 different images. So we've got a thumbs up emoji and we've also got a victory or peace emoji. So now what we can do is actually import those into our app. So let's go on ahead and do that. Okay, so those are our new things imported. So specifically what we've actually written there is import star as FP from Fingerpose. So this is our Fingerpose library and it's going to allow us to work with our gestures. Then what we've also done is we've imported victory from victory.png. So this is importing this image here. We've also imported thumbs up from thumbsup.png. And again, this is that image there. Now what we can go and do is mark that step as done. So the next thing that we need to do is actually update our detect function for gesture handling. So this is a couple of lines of code that we're going to add into this function here. So let's move this down so we can see it a little bit better. So this is our detect function that we wrote in the last video, what we're going to do is after we've done our hand pose detections, we're going to also append to that and actually perform our gesture detections. So let's go on ahead and start doing that. Okay, so what we've first started out by doing is just checking that we've actually got some detections. So if hand.length is greater than 0, so we're making sure that we're actually detecting a hand within our frame or within our video. Then what we're doing is we're setting up a new gesture estimator. So this is from our Fingerpose model that we imported up here. So in this particular case, we're bringing in our victory gesture, which is our piece, and we're also bringing up our thumbs gesture, which is going to be our thumbs up. Now, if you wanted to, in this particular space, you can actually configure new gestures. So if you wanted to do custom gestures, you can actually bring them in here. So I'll include a link in the description below as to how you can go on about and setting that up. But if you want to see a video on it, by all means, drop a mention in the comments below and we'll take a look at what we can build there. Alrighty, so we've imported our two gestures. Now what we actually want to do is go and estimate our gestures. So let's do that. Okay, so that's the core update to actually go and estimate our gestures. So what we've actually done is we've created a new variable called gesture. We've made this asynchronous, so we're going to wait for our estimation. And then what we're actually doing is we're grabbing our gesture estimator that we set up here, and we're using the estimate method and passing through our hand pose prediction, which we had up here. So what we're basically saying is that we're setting up a gesture estimator that knows about thumbs up and our victory gestures, and to that we're passing our hand pose detections. Then what we're doing is we're passing through our minimum confidence level. So in this case, we want it to be pretty confident that it's detecting a thumbs up and a peace sign, and then we're going to be logging that out. So initially, we're not going to be handling the emojis on the screen. We're just going to be logging out the different gestures that we're seeing. So let's go on and kickstart our app and take a look to see whether or not we're actually logging out any gestures. And we're just going to open up our console. So in this case, because we're console logging out, we should be able to see our gestures being logged. All right, so we can see our hand pose model running at the moment, so it's going off, but it's not detecting anything. Now, in this case, you can see as soon as I put my hands up, if I actually give it a thumbs up, you can see that within this particular array here, we're detecting the thumbs up gesture. Awesome. Now, if we go and do a peace sign, let's take a look. You can see it's slowly detecting that. So you need to have the thumbs up or your fingers pointing upwards in order for that to detect. If we open up our gestures, you can see it's detected victory with a confidence of 8.14. So we're now detecting gestures. So that's about it. So we're now detecting gestures. That's, if you wanted to stop there, you could, but what we're actually going to do is provide a little bit of control flow. So with these gestures, we actually want to do something within our application. So what we can do is we can actually use these gestures that we've detected and display the relevant emoji to our application. So let's go on ahead and start making the updates to go and show that. Alrighty, again, we're going to just stop it so our computer doesn't go a little crazy because it is quite resource heavy. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make the necessary updates in our detect function, and we're also going to start working with our different images that we imported here. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do now is we're going to set up a state hook. So this is basically going to allow us to handle our application state. So what we want this to do is if we detect a gesture, we want our application state to reflect that gesture. So what this basically means is that we're going to have a variable that represents what gesture has been detected, and then our app's going to be able to work with it. So to do that, we're going to be using our useState lifecycle hook that is available within React. So let's go on ahead and start that off. All right, so that's our state hook done. So what we've done is we've created two new variables, so emoji and set emoji, and we've specified our use state hook. So what this is basically going to mean is that we can access our gesture state or our emoji state using this particular variable there, and we can set that state using the function set emoji. So eventually, once we detect our gesture, we're going to be using set emoji to set our emoji state. So this means that when we detect a peace sign or a thumbs up, if we go and read our emoji variable, we're going to be able to get which gesture was detected. Then that particular variable is going to be able to be used to handle our application or display our emoji within our page. Then we've also set up a images object. So this is basically going to map through to the image that we want to bring up. And this is going to be used a little bit later on, but we've set it up for now. Now what we actually want to go and do is start working with this emoji state here. And this is going to be done within this little gesture section here. So this is going to be where we actually go and set our application state for that particular gesture. So let's do that. Alrighty, so that's our gesture handling done. Now let's actually step through what we've gone and written there. So first up, we're checking that we've actually got a gesture. So we're checking that it's not undefined and that we've got a length greater than 0. So we want to actually make sure that we've got some gestures detected. Then what we're doing is we're grabbing the confidence of each one of those detected gestures. So in this case, if there's more than one gesture detected, we want to bring back the gesture that has the highest confidence. So what we're first doing is we're mapping through them. So we're getting our gesture, we're traversing through that object, and then we're going to map through. Then what we're going to do is we're going to extract our prediction confidence. So what this is going to mean is that you've got an array called confidence, and within that you've got the confidence of the different detections. So in this case, if you had more gestures up here, we'd have an array of all the different confidences of those particular gestures if they've been detected. So say, for example, it detects victory and thumbs up. You want to predict the one that's most confident. So this is that first step. And then what we're doing is we're grabbing the maximum confidence. So we're using math.max.apply, and to that we're passing through our confidence array, and then we're just going and grabbing the index of that. So this is going to bring back which gesture had the maximum confidence, and then we're going back into our gestures and we're pulling out the one with the max confidence and then grabbing that name. So this is basically just a little bit of pre-processing to go and grab the gesture that has the highest confidence, and then we're grabbing that name. Then remember we said that we were going to be setting our state. So to that we're using the set emoji function, and basically this is going to be set to the gesture that's got the highest confidence. So it might either be peace or victory or thumbs up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to console log that out so we can actually see our gesture emoji name. So let's go and run it again and just make sure that we're actually setting our state appropriately and that we're actually picking up the right gesture. So again, we can run npm start. This is going to start up our app, and we should be able to see that in a second. And again, we're just going to go inspect and check our console. All right, so we're up and running. Now, if we go and hit peace, all right, we've got a bit of an error there. Let's go back and check that. Hold up. This should be gestures. There. Let's try that again. All right, so we've got peace, got thumbs up. And there you go. So you can see thumbs up popping up there. If we do the victory sign, detection's a little bit unclear. Let's make that a little bit clearer. You can see we're getting victory, we're getting thumbs up. Let's actually stop some of the other stuff console logging to see that a little bit better. So if we comment out hand pose model loaded up here, and if we comment out console log hand, so we don't need that, and console log gesture, we don't need that. We just need to be console logging out our emoji. So let's restart that. And so if we step back in, now if we go throw up victory, it's detecting victory, go and do a thumbs up, we're getting thumbs up. And there you go. So we're doing quite a fair few detections, so it's running pretty quickly. But again, you can see that we're detecting those different gestures. Now, the last thing that we actually want to do is we actually want to go and handle our application state and do something with this. So in this case, we're going to be showing up an emoji that matches to our particular state. And this is where our different emoji pictures are going to come in handy. So let's stop our app, make those updates, and then we can take a look at that. Alrighty, so what we're going to do is right down here in our canvas section, we're going to add our emoji handler. So in this case, we're just going to have a ternary operator, which is basically checking if we've actually got an emoji. And then if we do, then we're going to display our image. So let's go on and set that up. Okay, so what we've actually gone and done there is we've included this ternary operator here. This is basically just like an if-else check. So what we're checking first up is that our emoji is not set to null. And remember, this is our emoji state that we've got up here. Then what we're doing is if it's not set to null, we're going to be returning this image up here. So basically it's a standard image tag, and we're setting our source equal to our images object, and specifically we're passing through the emoji that we want. So this is going to go up to here, and it's going to return the image that we need. So in this case, if we pass through our thumbs up key, we're going to be returning our thumbs up image, and if we pass through our victory key, we're going to be returning our victory image. Now, if we scroll on back, then the last thing that we're doing is we're just setting some styling. And if we detect nothing, then we're going to be returning nothing as well. Alrighty, so now what we can go and do is start this up, and hopefully when we detect our emojis, we're going to be able to see the result. Now again, this is running in near real time, so you're going to see it change pretty quickly, and we're going to see a number of results come through. So there are ways to perform tune this, and if you know of any, by all means, drop a mention in the comments below and we can take a look. So we're going to kick this off and take a look at our emoji and gesture detector. Oh, we should probably save that as well. So let's save and then wait for that to compile. And there you go. So our hand pose model is working, and you can see we've got our little detection there. So if we throw up victory, that's working. If we change our detection to thumb, you can see that's changing in real time. So this basically allows us to take our hand pose model and make those updates. So it's actually using our hand pose model and resetting our emoji. So there you go. So now we've got some control flow based off our hand pose detection model. So again, if you throw it up in the correct direction, it should work. And there you go, it's resetting. And that about wraps it up. So we've done quite a fair bit there. So if we go back to our to-do list, we've updated our function for our gesture handling. We've set up our hook and our emoji object. And last but not least, we detected and drew our emoji to the screen. So we did quite a fair bit. Now, if you wanted to, you can extend this further. So as I was mentioning before, you can actually bring in your own custom gestures. So this would allow you to take this a little bit further and actually customize it to what you actually need. But for now, what we're able to do is we're able to use our app, throw up our different emojis, and our app's updating in real time. So if we throw up our thumbs up, there you go, you can see it updating. And if we go back to victory, boom, pretty cool. And that about wraps up this video. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and tick that bell so you get notified when I release new videos. And let me know in the comments below what gestures you're thinking of tuning. Thanks again for tuning in. Peace.